Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the only show on the internet where we dare to talk about things like fantasy, dragons, sci-fi, lasers, superheroes, TV, movies, books, pop culture, and so on. I am Dan Selke, the editor of winteriscoming.net, and Mia Johnson, editor of darktotheforest.com, is out today, but we have a very special guest, the wonderful and talented Corey Smith, who is also a writer at WiC. Corey, how are you doing today?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on. Always love to come on.
It's always a blast to have you because not to me is my favorite, obviously, but it's good to talk with someone who is, how do I say this without insulting people, who's like a bit more like sunk into the morass that is fantasy books. And there we go. Okay, giant nerds like me, and because me is a nerd, but she's a nerd for other stuff. Like she doesn't have a command of knowledge about, for example, the Lord of the Rings, which we're going to talk about a bit today. I guess we can just, and thanks everybody who's watching us. If you have a comment, a thought, a query, feel free to sound off. We'd love to talk to you. Hey, Christian, good to see you. And it's good that you're on today because we are going to talk about, to start things off, a Lord of the Rings related news tidbit. Because for a while now, for literally years now, I think, we've known that Amazon Prime Video, Jeff Bezos' little baby that could, is making a tremendously ambitious, incredibly expensive, deeply mysterious television show based on J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings world. And finally, the other day, they gave us an image and a release date. I thought we'd look at them and give our incredibly expert thoughts. What do you think, Corey? Think it's a good idea?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Can we have the image, please? Okay. So, the first image of Jeff Bezos' Lord of the Rings show, $500 million for the first 2 seasons. Corey, just as someone who's read Lord of the Rings, watched Lord of the Rings, what do you see in this image when you just look at it?
I mean, obviously you get drawn to the figure there in the middle who's wearing what looks like some very comfortable robes, pajamas. Not really sure there. But yeah, I mean, he's whoever that is. We're kind of assuming it's a male. I mean, it could easily be a female character. It leans a little more towards a male, I think, but yeah, I mean, that's where your eyes drawn is right there, and then you kind of pull back and you can see the vast landscape there that looks obviously pretty stunning. Looks very expensive, and then of course the 2 trees that are kind of there in the in the center, right behind the I don't know, the sunrise or the sunset, one of the 2.
Neither. Oh, because you know what that is? Okay, so I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I read my Tolkien lore. That's not a sunrise, not a sunset. So when I first looked at this, I saw a tree in the background. I was like, oh, it's a tree and a sunset. How pretty. And then the internet looked closer and was like, oh no, motherfucker, that's 2 trees. That is a dark tree and a light tree. So then if you're a Tolkien nerd, and like I knew this, but it's, like Tolkien wrote so much mythology, it's hard to keep in your head.
He did.
So if we're looking at 2 trees, that means we are before the 3rd age, we're before the 2nd age, we're before the 1st age.
Right.
This is way, way, way back in an era called the years of the 2 trees. And Corey, the reason I say that it's not the sunrise, because in the year of the 2 trees, guess what made light? Not the sun, not the moon, the damn trees. The trees actually give off light. It's where it's coming from.
Yeah,
I went down this deep, deep rabbit hole of like, oh yeah, I remember all this crap from like the Silmarillion and all the appendices, where it's a whole thing where, according to the mythology, like the godlike figures made the 2 trees and they shone with a holy light for like literally tens of thousands of years. And then, like, again, this is before I think human beings are even a part of the world.
Correct.
And so I think that's what we're looking at.
Yeah. That was my first thought as well, because there are, like you said, there's 2 trees, and I forget their names.
I wrote them down. I wouldn't be able to pronounce them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to pronounce them anyways. But there are 2 trees, and you are correct. It is before humans inhabit the world or the earth or whatever you want to call it. But it's not before elves and the minor gods inhabit the earth.
Sauron's around,
yeah. So that could be. I mean, I do think that skipping ahead a little bit. I think that's Sauron that we're looking at there in the picture.
It could be,
but the only thing that threw me is we know that it's set in the Second Age. So I wonder if we're looking at some sort of like a flashback or kind of, or maybe not a flashback, but just kind of, in the films, which I know aren't connected, they start by going back and showing you kind of what led up to this, and that might be what we're looking at.
The world has changed.
Right.
In the water.
Right. This might be the prologue that we're kind of seeing the two trees, because they do have a long history, because it's not just that they had the two trees. They get eventually poisoned and destroyed by Melkor, and their kind of descendants go down through the ages, all the way until Lord of the Rings, and there's the tree in Gondor and in Minas Tirith. So it could be that we're looking at, and it's just sort of a flashback or a prologue that we're looking at, not an actual scene in the show. So I mean, which, if that's what we're looking at, the only thing with that though is that, if I remember correctly, the two trees were in an uninhabited area of the world, and so in this shot they're clearly right outside a city or something like that, or maybe they're just large enough to see from the city. So I mean, I don't know, but yeah, the two tree things, I think that is probably ultimately what it is, and we're just looking at some sort of flashback.
Thank God I looked up all sorts of stupid mythology last night to write this article. The two trees were outside the Einar city of Valmar on the land of Valinor on the continent of Aman, in the farthermost western point of Middle Earth.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing.
And by the way, I did Google it just in case any of you are burning with curiosity. It is Laurelin, the gold tree, and Telperion, the silver tree. And I completely agree with you. Yes, this is prologue, this is flashback. This isn't the main
setting of the show. Yeah, I think, and that's the thing with Tolkien's work is, people see it as Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings is really the end of a long story that he was telling, and he started the story, like Game of Thrones, we kind of pick it up in the middle of what's going on and et cetera. I mean, he starts it literally back at the beginning of time, the forming of Middle Earth, the gods inhabiting it, the awakening of the elves and the dwarves and the humans. I mean, it starts literally from day one for him. So showing the trees wouldn't be out of the question, because he has written extensively about, prehistory or whatever you want to call it. So,
all right. I'll be honest with you, everybody. I cannot hear anymore. I hear persistent knocking. I don't know what's happening. I'm not sure what to do. So I'm sure you said something really, really cool and really, really awesome, really, really great there. I don't know what it was. Okay. I am going to disconnect from Zoom and then reconnect, and then have a great message from our sponsors when we get back. 1 second. All right. Corey, what you said was so patiently intelligent, I pretty much collapsed here and the internet went out. While you all stew on that, why don't we read a brief message from our sponsor, Manscaped. At this point in the show, I'd like to speak to the men in the audience, and also to the women who know men. Winter has come and gone, but summer is here right now, which can mean heat. It means visiting beaches in various states of undress, and or sweat-related discomfort. To help with all of this, you'll want the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. This package comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, which makes removing body hair easier than ever before, thanks to its cutting-edge ceramic blade. It also has an LED spotlight, and it's waterproof. So if the power goes out while you're in the shower and you want to shave, not a problem. That's not the only product that Manscaped offers. The Weed Whacker takes care of that pesky nose and ear hair, and the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant is like ordinary deodorant, but applied to a different area of the body than you usually apply deodorant. Want the stuff for yourself? Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code FANSIDED20 at manscaped.com. All right, Corey, like really, really briefly, what did you say when my internet went out? Because I am very curious.
No, I was just talking about Tolkien. I don't think people realize how he starts his story at the beginning, and Lord of the Rings is the end. So he has written a huge amount of work, and it does start all the way back when they're just literally making, the gods are literally making the world, and how it gets corrupted, and the trees are early on in his story, but they do descend down through the history, through their sap, whatever you want to call it. So yeah.
And everything, I mean, it's kind of that fantasy author thing where they get more interested in the mythology than in like the actual storytelling. Like George R. R. Martin kind of has that issue too. Only Tolkien had the good sense, I guess, to keep it all to appendices and other books. Whereas I feel like Martin is kind of like trying to explore absolutely everything that ever happened in this world in his main story a little bit and slowing him down a bit. But yeah, Tolkien was just in love with his backstory, which is was great, and we've never seen it on screen before. So this is going to be a new challenge. Are you interested, Corey, in the Lord of the Rings show coming next year? Oh, by the way, sorry, coming on September 2nd of 2022.
Yeah, so we can talk about that too, because I'm very interested. I think the biggest takeaway is that clearly, at the very least, the show looks gorgeous and it looks expensive, right? So maybe we don't know what city we're looking at or who that is in the field, but
Valmar.
Right. Regardless, it looks expensive. It looks beautiful. I'm very, very excited. I'm a huge Tolkien nerd, and I've read all the appendices and the Silmarillion and all that good stuff. So I did find that the premiere date is very interesting, that it's pushed all the way until essentially a year from now. You know, I know they just wrapped filming, and you know, they released some behind the scenes pictures of like rocks and trees and stuff. But you know, I still find that interesting that, I mean, that's a whole year that they're requiring for post-production. I know they've also got Wheel of Time coming out this fall, but it doesn't seem like it would be out of the question ordinarily to have post-production done in time for, say, a spring or a summer premiere. But they are waiting all the way until next fall, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I mean, I think just announcing the premiere date over a year away, I'm not sure I've ever heard of that being done. There was some tweet from the One Ring that was like, this is the longest premiere date ever like announced this far ahead of time. Which I'm not sure why they didn't to do it. I mean, you're right. Like, they have the Wheel of Time coming. They could have at least like waited until that was a little more, like maybe even over, before giving us an exact date to get that hype train rolling. But I guess they just really wanted to get, they were thrilled they finished production, and they really wanted to get the information out to us. We have something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to it too.
And, you know, regarding the Wheel of Time, we only know the month of that premiere.
Yeah.
That's odd that they gave an exact date. They didn't say, you know, fall 2022. They said, here's the exact date. They don't even have the exact date in November that the Wheel of Time is going to premiere. But I did also note that they talked about it will be released in a weekly fashion.
Yes.
They didn't necessarily say maybe it's 2 episodes, but I mean, I would think it's probably just going to be the one. But I did appreciate that. I do like the weekly release schedule.
Absolutely.
For a lot of shows, especially for a show that's going to be, I think a little more dense than like, some of the other shows that are coming out where you want a week to fully dissect what's going on and, learn everybody's names. And, it's going to have a high
Talparian.
Yeah, it's going to have a high learning curve for a show. I mean, there's going to be a huge amount of characters. So I like that they went weekly with this. I mean, we'll still see how, is it every Tuesday at 7:00 or, because I like that Disney does weekly on their shows. I'm not necessarily a fan that they release them at 12:01, midnight of the day of the release. So, I mean,
I think we'll change that eventually.
Yeah. So I think some of the details we'll have to wait and see, but I do like that it'll be weekly. It is a little odd that they, gave the release date a whole year in advance. But yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad to see you guys think it's cool too. Judy Barton says it's so exciting. Michael Maubrey says it's awesome. And yeah, it is definitely a big swing, potentially a home run, but we'll have to wait a long while to find out for sure. All right. I wanted to, unless you have any other thoughts, feel free to interrupt, but I wanted to shift gears and talk about some juicy legal drama that is a little old, but I wanted to touch on because I am conflicted over this story, Corey, and I'm curious whether you, and I'm curious whether a lot of you guys watching feel the same or differently. So I think it was late last week, I forget. It came out that Scarlett Johannson, famed actor, is suing Disney over her new film Black Widow, which came out a few weeks ago. Her final curtain call in the MCU, at least I would assume if she's suing her company, she's not going to come back for anything else. Where the story is basically this movie comes out, Disney decides because of its pandemic times to release it both in theaters and make it available on Disney Plus for an extra $30 fee via its Premier Access function. The movie does fine. It's one of those weird things where it made over $300 million, but we're all acting like it didn't make a lot, which I guess in relative terms, it didn't make a ton as much Avengers Endgame, but it still made well over $300 million. And basically Scarlett Johansson sued the company saying that because her salary was tied to physical box office returns from the movie theaters, that she lost out on as much as $50 million that she would have made had Disney not also released it on Disney Plus, where folks are just watching it at home, not going to the theaters, making their own damn popcorn, and just stealing her, not stealing her money, but that Disney should have consulted with her. That was a violation of their contract. And the conflict quickly got sort of ugly. Disney came back with this really personal kind of rebuff, saying that there is no merit whatsoever to this filing. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I was like, damn, Disney is going very hard publicly against Scarlett Johansson and her lawsuit. But also said that she already made $20 million in the movie, which kind of is I think their way of saying didn't she make enough people to get people on their side? And it's important for a bunch of reasons. I mean, who doesn't like Hollywood drama where an actor just kind of and is fighting Disney? That's always fun. But also the result of it could determine whether movies continue to be released on streaming services. And I guess I'll just ask you first, what do you think of this? Are you on a side? And people, you two out there, what do you make of this conflict?
I don't know if I'm on a side, but I do have lots of thoughts. So first of all,
the best guy.
If there is a sequel, I think we can say Scarlett Johansson is not going to be in it. But I will say credit to her, because last year, when Warner Brothers pulled their move and they said all their big movies were going to go on HBO Max, and Disney kind of did the same with us, some of their movies, Mulan and this one and a couple of the other ones. Scarlett Johansson's been the only one who has stood up and actually, everybody complained about it. All the actors or producers, they all complained about it, but nobody actually did anything. So I mean, like I said, credit to her for actually, doing something about it and not just complaining and trying to affect some sort of change. That being said, I I do kind of wonder where her team is getting this $50 million
Sure.
number, because if Disney is correct, and I'm assuming they are, as far as they've already paid her $20 million, you're talking that her fee was like $70 million for the show,
well, like she's saying that it would have made so much more money in theaters. She would have gotten the percentage. It would have been as much as 50 million.
I mean, I don't know, that figure seems to be pretty high, because I mean,
optimistic.
Okay, 300 million is actually not a that's on the lower end. That's more like Ant-Man and some of the lower tier character. I don't want lower tier, but the less, the non-Iron Man, Captain America movies and non-Avengers movies make. A lot of them making that 300-400 million dollar range, and that's actually really good.
That's fine.
So if she's saying, $50 million, you're talking, they promised her a sixth of the profits, or roughly in that range. I mean, what did she really expect it to make? 500 million, which is like more than the first Captain America movie made. That number to me seems very, very high. So, I mean, and also, I mean, portions of the proceeds are usually reserved for, your very top tier, actors inside of a.
Oh, careful now.
Inside of a film community. And I mean, with respect to Black Widow, I don't think she was on the same level as like Robert Downey Jr. or, you know what I mean? So to say that she was promised a portion of the profits, I don't know. That the math seems fuzzy to me. So I don't know. I mean, doesn't it seem a little exaggerated to you?
I mean, like, it feels like a number you put in a lawsuit going high, assuming it will be negotiated down during the actual process of the court thing. That's what it seems like to me. My bigger issue with it is I'm of two minds. That I mean, yes, I can believe that Disney would violate her contract and not talk to her if it thought it could make more money through Disney Plus. Not hard to believe. I'm not a fan of Disney really when it comes to this stuff. My other situation, now it's more, Dan knows law. I did go to law school. Yes, I'm so aware of these things. My bigger issue with it is that, I mean, if she wins, like, let's say that a judge does hand down that, yes, you need to pay her this huge amount. I mean, the worst case scenario is they'll stop releasing movies on streaming services, because all these stars and all these directors like Denis Villeneuve of Dune, like they don't want movies to come out on HBO Max, Disney Plus. Sure. They want them in the theaters.
Right.
And speaking as like a customer, a viewer, a fan, I am completely in favor of movies coming out on Disney Plus, HBO Max, and in the theaters. Like, that gives ordinary people more choice, especially, yes, during the pandemic. I mean, it does seem a little gauche to be suing a company to affect change, and the change you will eventually affect with this lawsuit, if it's successful, is that movies will only be released in theaters. Forcing folk to go to theaters at a time when going to public space is dangerous. That is optics. That is true. I don't like Disney's way of. I thought they were very, like, weirdly, again, like, weirdly personal.
But right, it was not a a copy paste response to a lawsuit. It did feel.
Oh no, someone was mad. Like,
yeah.
Apparently Kevin Feige was like angry and embarrassed about it, and like
on Scarlett's behalf, not on yeah.
Oh, like Kevin Feige is like, I don't like how you handled that. Like, someone should have probably talked to me. Like, he was not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that either.
Yeah. The other thing though is I hate to stand up for the big corporation, but if you remember, but I'm going to, when Mulan was about to come out, Mulan I don't think it changed its premiere date. It just shifted from the theaters onto Disney Plus.
I don't remember.
Whereas Black Widow was supposed
it changed the premiere date. I remember that Mulan was like, I remember there were like ads for that on the train terminal.
But not that much, I guess is my point. It shifted a little, but like Black Widow was supposed to come out last summer. It was supposed to come out over a year ago. This film has been in the can for a long time. And to me, just from the outside before this lawsuit, it seemed like Disney was doing everything it could to wait to have Black Widow in theaters. Whereas like with Mulan and a couple of the other movies that they released, they just dumped them as, basically as soon as they, could. And this one, they kept pushing it back until they felt like they could at least have some theater involvement. So, I mean, to me, it seems like they went the extra mile, and maybe that's why they're feeling a little jilted by Scarlett, because they felt like they were trying to go the extra mile and get it in theaters as much as they could.
Sure.
But at some point, they have to release the damn movie. They can't just sit here for the next 10. I mean, it looks like we're about to all get shut down again. Who knows, in another month?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I get it. She probably, was promised part of the profits or something like that. I think, again, she's that her team's probably overestimating that. But I don't know. Disney doesn't strike me as the kind of company that would allow themselves to easily be dunked on in court. So
no.
Yeah. So I tend to lean towards there is something in the contract that did not stipulate it had to be released in theaters, and that her portion of the proceeds were only guaranteed if the film was released in theaters, and that Disney probably reserved the right to release it however the hell they wanted. You know what I mean? And if it was, she got a cut, but if it wasn't, like that seems like I'd be very shocked if this ended up going her way right out the gate. I mean, maybe Disney settles and gives her something.
Probably. I imagine so it'll go.
Yeah, I don't think that she'll ultimately get a big game-changing, industry-changing number where other studios are like, well, we can't do this, because it just seems like to me that there's probably something in her contract that basically absolves Disney of any kind of guilt or whatever you want to say in this case. And I'd be shocked if it was otherwise. I'd be shocked if the contract just straight said it has to come out in theaters and you have to give me at least X amount. I'd be very shocked if that was the case.
I mean, I'm not going to get too far into it. I did, because like, remember, this movie was filmed like years ago. Like, no one knew there was going to be a pandemic. No one knew there was going to be a situation where we're going to have to release things into streaming services. But I also did read that even back when it was being made and negotiated, that Disney Plus was on the horizon. And like, look, they're not dumb Hollywood types. They can be like, oh, you're going to want to release this on that, aren't you? So there could have been a stipulation to that. I'm sure the pandemic made all the difference. The pandemic forced their hand. And like you said, they pushed it back and back and back, probably because they were afraid of actors like ScarJo coming for them, where someone in Mulan doesn't have that kind of leverage. But a big star, like, I mean, according to you, she's garbage compared to Robert Downey Jr., but a big star, according to Corey Smith. That's Corey Smith's words, not mine.
I love Scarlett Johannson. I'm just saying, in the hierarchy of the MCU, you know what I mean? I don't know. So I like I said, well, I'm interested to see how it goes, because it is.
Me too.
Like I said, it's the first time any of these, actors, producers, directors, whatever, however they're involved, is actually fighting back against one of the companies for their release schedule. Because we saw Christopher Nolan throw a fit about Tenet, and
Denis Villeneuve threw a fit about Dune. Probably still throwing a fit for all we knew.
Yeah. So but none of them actually pursued.
Like Denis Villeneuve apparently is doing stuff, just not a lawsuit. Like he was like doing more back channel stuff with his agents.
I do also, and that's I'm glad you brought that up, because I do also wonder why it reached this point. Because to me, if you're Disney, how do you not just write her a check for $10 million extra and just tell her to, what I mean, to avoid the loss.
She wants 50 million, Corey.
Right. And so to me, that I am surprised that it came to this point, because it just seems like it could have easily been avoided by Disney if they had just, handled it in private instead of it going into public, which I think is the last thing Disney wants. And maybe that's why they, maybe they thought they had something, they had been having the private talks and they were getting somewhere, and then maybe they felt blindsided by this, and that's why they had the kind of weirdly personal reply. So
I like Nicole Carbon Hatch's comment. I agree. More choice is better. Why can't the actors have a piece of the streaming pie profits too? And I think that's what will happen going forward. Like, if this becomes a standard thing where you put movies out on streaming services, that's going to have to be a part of the negotiations. Whether you're King Robert Downey Jr. or a trash person like Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, and I think that will end up being the way the industry goes. I think that with the way streaming, especially during the pandemic, is kind of what do you want to call it? Kind of giving it a kickstart. It's grown faster than I think a lot of people anticipated.
Oh yeah.
And I think that eventually, people have stipulations in their contract that cover things like this. I think right now they just don't necessarily know how to quantify how much does one view equal, right? You know what I mean? I think that's where the metrics is probably where they're struggling, because, like, for instance, when I got it, I had people over and we watched it together for $30, right?
Did you like it?
I don't think we need to get into that.
Okay, fair enough. Keep going.
No, I was not a fan. I think
I'm guessing no. I mean, never mind. Keep going.
Yeah, but no, but I'm saying, like, how do you quantify how many people, yes, you had a streaming view from me, but I mean, what if I had 10 people over at my house, or what if I had 2? Like, how I think the metrics is where they struggle, as far as how do you pay your actors for things that are just streaming and not in theaters.
Yeah, well, I think we've gotten to the root of it. I think we solved it. I think we should be a retainer at Disney. And as Corey Thone says, the legend Corey Thone, maybe ScarJo can pay for decorations in your house. I don't know if you want to correct me on that score or not. And ScarJo might listen to this podcast. Hey, I was just quoting what Corey Smith said. I think ScarJo is great. It's not my fault that Corey Smith thinks she is refuse.
It's not her fault that she was. I love Scarlett Johansson as an actress. It's not her fault that she was underused in the MCU. And
no, it's not.
It's definitely not her fault that the movie made literally no sense whatsoever.
All right, let's move on to a segment we do a lot of the time. What are we watching? What are we watching? What are you watching? We want to know. Tell us. And I'll just kick it off. I'm much new. I meant to go see The Green Knight in theaters, and I didn't because I was busy over the weekend. I did watch a bunch of episodes of Wellington Paranormal on HBO Max, which is the spin-off of What We Do in the Shadows, which I think is a great show. Have you ever seen that show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Vampire comedy. So funny. What If Paranormal is kind of like in the same world, but it's about the police officers who are kind of getting these calls. It's like cops, but they're investigating vampire sightings and ghost attacks and werewolf bites and that kind of thing. And they're very hapless and kind of idiotic. And it's very charming, very deadpan, very like the joke is that they don't get the joke, sort of office-y type humor. And it's good. I mean, that movie is good. That show is good. And I'm enjoying it. And that's the really thing I only watched today. That's the only new thing I watched this week. But Corey, you, I wanted to bring you on because you watch some things that don't often get talked about a lot. And you're here to evangelize about some shows that need some more loving. So Corey, what have you been watching?
Yeah, so I've been watching a couple of foreign language shows. And I think
so sophisticated.
Yeah, I know. But I think Netflix seems to be trending towards I think they're kind of cheaper to make than some of the American shows. In a lot of cases, they're kind of buying up shows that are already getting made overseas anyways. And so there's a lot of good stuff out there. One of the ones that recently just came out with like a sort of side movie is a Korean series called Kingdom, which basically it kind of deals with zombies and political intrigue back in the I think it's the early 1800s in Korea. So you've got the the power play and the politics going around, revolving around the king of Korea back then. But then you also throw in a zombie plague that's starting to overtake the country, and how different parties kind of play into that. And it's just a very, very excellent show. The zombies are very well done. The effects are really well done. The acting is great. They have it dubbed in English. If you don't want to read subtitles, I don't blame some people for that. They have it dubbed in English, and the dub is pretty good. I've kind of switched back and forth between the dub and the subtitles, but it's a very, very good show. It's 2 seasons plus this little side movie that they just released that kind of deals with the origins of the show. So I definitely highly recommend that show. I really enjoyed it and got through it really, really fast. So
sweet. It does look really cool. Like a period zombie piece is definitely a fun idea. And I'll try and find time to watch it.
Yeah,
I know you have. Go on.
No. Yeah, and then the other show I was going to say was it's a German series called Barbarians. And this kind of has more of like a The Last Kingdom. I know you're familiar with The Last Kingdom.
Oh yeah,
which is a British series. This kind of deals with some of the same themes, in that one of the main characters was born in Germany, but he was raised in Rome, and now as the series opens, he's brought back to Germany, to his childhood friends, his family, but as a Roman legionnaire. So he's trying to
really Last Kingdom.
Yeah, it's got the kind of 2 worlds, it's from both worlds thing going on. And it's based on real world history, just like The Last Kingdom. And he's basically trying to navigate the Roman subjugation of this area of Germany back in, I think it's the 4th century, 4th or 5th century. I don't know how much that matters, but so it's really good. And I think it's only 1 season so far, but Netflix ordered a 2nd season of it that's supposed to be out sometime soon. And I think it's only 6 episodes. So it's one, and same thing for Kingdom. Those are only 6 episodes. So you can.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you can binge through it really quickly. And it's another show that it looks really well. There's a lot of, swords and fighting and things like that. But also, like I said, the main character, who's based on a historical figure, navigating that world and deciding which one he wants to ultimately be a part of. So that's a great series to watch. I think we're kind of hitting a little bit of a dull spot. I know Disney Plus has been releasing some good shows lately, but I think we're starting to get into a lull. So it's fun to kind of go back and maybe watch something you missed the first time around because something more hyped or whatever was out. So
if you could only recommend one of those shows to the good people who are watching, which one would it be? Kingdom or Barbarians?
Probably Kingdom, because like I said, there's 2 seasons to that, so it feels a little more complete. And yeah, I think Kingdom would probably be the one that I would recommend over the 2. They're both very excellent, but yeah, Kingdom, because it has 2, there's a little bit more to chew on and a little bit more to digest and get into. So
cool. And actually, if there's only 6 episodes a season, I could probably watch that. It's always hard to dive into like a giant new show when you have so much to watch besides, but I always like a nice compact-ish, but still epic and thrilling tale. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Before we move on to our final segment, let's read some comments. We're getting some good ones. As Nicole says, The Green Knight looks interesting, but not sure I will go into the theater for it right now, which I completely agree with. I'm hoping to sneak in this Friday and maybe like go to the theater once in 2 years before everything shuts down again.
It might be the last chance. You better get in there.
It might be the last chance. I know I got to. Like,
You got to get in there because who knows what's going to happen in a couple months. I mean, I would.
I did the Suicide Squad too. I was getting like rave reviews. I wasn't going to, but after those reviews, I was like, oh God, maybe I should.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that comes out tomorrow, right? Or is it Friday?
Yeah, this
Friday.
weekend.
Yeah. So, and that luckily comes out on HBO Max, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And we'll be plopping in front of my TV to sit down and watch that. Because I've heard lots of really good things. It seemed like a kind of unnecessary movie when it was originally.
It did, but yeah, I mean, apparently people love the hell out of it. So good for it.
Yeah.
Also says that Nicole that excited for Chapel Wait on Epics in a few weeks. Looks spooky and cool. I agree. Love Stephen King. Oh, who's in that? Who's the lead? I forget. Now it's going to bother me. But also, Christian asks, is Netflix going to cave and do a season 4 of Manifest? I mean, the will is certainly there, Christian. And Netflix does sometimes respond to that. So we'll see. Wait, really quickly. Who is the main guy in Chapel Wait? Adrian Brody. That's the one. Okay. I wanted to say Kylo Ren, actor man.
Adam Driver?
Thank you. Adam Driver. But no, it's more like the Yesterday's Adam Driver, Adrian Brody.
He's making cologne commercials. Adam Driver's too busy.
Oh, he doesn't have a shirt. He's riding a horse. He's in the water. He's doing very important work.
Yeah.
And finally, Corey, I wanted to bring you into our final segment, the WiC News Lightning Round. Lightning round right here, where we go through some of the stories that are nice, but didn't have time to really cover in depth. And we each have 20 seconds to respond to them and give our final definitive takes. I can start and then we'll go back and forth. Corey, are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, watchers?
Do it. Hit me.
Okay. 20 seconds on the clock. First story. Disney's Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel will cost $5,000 for a 2-night stay for 2 people. Corey, are you interested?
Absolutely not. No.
Is that literally it?
I don't need 20 seconds. Absolutely not. No way. Not a chance. No.
You're right. What a stupid, insulting price to go LARP with your girlfriend for 2 nights. Good Lord. And it gets even higher for like, if you want to bring like 3 or 4 people. Like to what? I love that it said like valet parking is included. Oh, well, that's $2,000 right there. That I guess.
I mean, if Mark Hamill's staying in the room with this, or maybe Adam Driver, okay, but yeah, no thanks. Sorry.
Apparently,
sorry, Disney.
Okay, there was no buzzer for that one because you were very fast, but usually there's a buzzer. I mean, you're gonna disrupt. You're a disruptor. All right, hit me with one.
So let's see here. I didn't have the list up. You didn't. Let's see.
What? It's in the outline I sent at the bottom.
Hold on.
You don't blame me, you Scarlett Johannson hating non-outline reading person.
Yeah, I'm never gonna live that down, am I? It's just gonna be.
No, I'm being a jerk.
No, everybody is. Nobody's gonna let me live that down for the rest of my life. I'm sure her reps are emailing me as we speak. Okay, so Jodie Whittaker and the Doctor Who showrunner are leaving after the next season.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I care because Doctor Who is an institution. It's a long-running show. We all expected it, though. I mean, this isn't like shattering news. It's usually about 3 seasons and the actor is out. Right. And there's already, I will say, like, do you care? The show does seem to like kind of be diminishing returns and how excited folks are for it. And I think, I don't know what I think. Okay, here we go. Corey, House of the Dragon will feature at least 3 new Valyrian steel swords. I assume including Blackfire and Dark Sister. Does that excite you, Corey?
Yeah, Ryan Condal, the showrunner of House of the Dragon, is a mega ultra diamond level prop nerd. He literally has a props podcast. So if he's putting out a sword like that, it's going to be good.
You're so good at this. I am terrible at this. Okay. I guess hit me.
Well, I mean, you're giving me these really hard charging deep questions, but
what's the point?
a new live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is coming. Yay or nay? Excited? No.
Nay, not excited. Just okay. I'm thinking someone who like loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was a little kid. Like, I guess I just don't have a nostalgia associated with it. And just, it's one of those franchises that like a certain age of people really, really like it, but it was never like an amazing thing, I don't think.
No.
Okay, I have to up my game and be where you are in this. Okay, how about this? There is a new movie trilogy coming based on The Exorcist, made by the guys who make the new Halloween movies. Does that interest you, Court?
I mean, I saw the original. I don't know why you need to have a whole trilogy of the movies, but I guess they've been making those movies about dolls for like 10 years now. It seems like a new one comes out every 6 months. So,
All right. My next challenge is I'm gonna not take the whole 20 seconds. This is what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna see what happens. Oh, the next one's hard. Okay, fine. Give it to me.
Okay, so I've never actually heard of these books, but Mercedes Lackey, she has a universe, fantasy universe called the Valdemar universe coming, and it's going to be adapted for TV. Any interest? And bonus question, who's adapting it?
We don't know. It's like this studio. There's no like network yet. There's no premiere date or anything. It's just like an idea out there. It like I hadn't heard of it either. It's cool though, because this is a big fantasy thing like back in the 80s, and it has like the first openly gay like fantasy hero in a fantasy, like if Aragorn was gay, which is I think is interesting because like there's so much to say about that.
It's different.
Yes, it's different. But the rules are I can't say anything else. So we're moving on. All right. Okay. Are you interested in Venom? Let There Be Carnage. Carnage has a new trailer where Woody Harrelson has a red wig and a yen for blood.
Absolutely. Woody Harrelson is amazing pretty much in everything he does. So is Tom Hardy. So I mean, I think that was the big problem with it. I mean, not that a big problem, but the first movie was lacking an opposite presence, and I think Woody Harrelson can hold his own with Tom Hardy.
I wish you were worse at this, or I was better. But yeah, I agree. All right, do the last one.
So the last one is we got a first look at Disney Plus's new Hawkeye show. It shows him, and I'm drawing a blank on her name. His little sidekick.
It's Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, who is apparently like the mini Hawkeye in the comics. I mean, this is the show that I'm probably least interested in that Disney is putting out. I think it's nice. I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't think I'll watch it. Their challenge now is to like get us interested in every Marvel show they put out, even when there are going to be some that are like higher, like more interesting than others, which I think could hurt them if they want to connect all of them.
Yeah. Look at that. Under the buzzer.
Love it. All right. Well, Corey, thank you for coming on. Thank you for helping me up my lightning round game. Thank you. No more Scarlett Johannson jokes. Just thank you in general for coming on. This is a lot of fun. Come on whenever you want. Any other final thoughts about anything at all before you sign off?
No, thanks for having me. Anytime you need me back, let me know.
Of course. Will do. And everybody out there, thanks for watching. We are available in podcast form, wherever podcasts are available, on Google Play, iTunes, etc., and so forth. We're also streamed live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Winter is Coming Facebook page and the Winter is Coming YouTube page. Thanks for being here, and see you next week. Bye-bye.